Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tearing into a highly specific, absolutely critical wealth forecast targeting one very particular group, the 1979 Earth Goat cohort. According to the source material we're analyzing today, June 2026 isn't just another month on the calendar, it's actually described as the radiant ingress. So if you're a solopreneur or a non-mainstream investor born in this year, listen up. This period, specifically from June 1st right through the 15th, is outlined as literally the most critical window of the entire decade for converting your intellectual capital into real market authority. Let's break down exactly what that means and how this strategy is put together. Right out of the gate, our source throws down a massive challenge. Are you ready to stop people-pleasing? I mean, are you actually prepared to shed those comfortable, highly collaborative habits in favor of sovereign, decisive action? The forecast strongly suggests that for the 1979 Earth Goat, the days of hiding behind a collective are completely over. It is time to step squarely into the spotlight. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our executive briefing structure for today. We'll cover the 1979 ARIES reset, do a quick June solopreneur SWOT analysis, map out the wealth timeline for early June, talk about how to monetize the weird, and wrap up with feng shui for expansion. Let's hit section 1, the 1979 ARIES reset. We're talking about a massive generational power shift happening this month for this cohort. It's framed almost like a structural audit of all your professional alliances. We really have to look at the tension the text describes between two astrological forces here, Saturn in Aries opposing your natal Pluto in Libra. So the old Libra way, that's characterized by hiding behind a collective or maybe a traditional firm, basically playing it safe and people-pleasing. But the demanded Aries way is all about sovereign action. It's about pioneering. It means taking full, unshared responsibility for your creative output. And this crucial pivot is captured perfectly in this quote straight from the text. Stop people-pleasing and start pioneering. The forecast states unequivocally that generating wealth in June 2026 relies purely on this sovereign action. You can't be a passenger anymore. You have to be the one steering the ship. Moving on to section 2, the June solopreneur SWOT analysis. Let's bring this down to earth for a second and ground this mindset shift in some practical business realities, specifically tailored for the 1979 solopreneur in June 2026. If we look at the strengths, we see Tai Young, which means sun visibility, basically strong support from mentors. And that's paired with a grounded earth spirit that helps turn those wild ideas into tangible assets. But you gotta watch out for the weaknesses. There's a very real risk of what's called double fire burnout, just complete mental exhaustion from overscheduling, along with some stubbornness about adopting new workflows. When we move over to opportunities, the focus is heavily on launching your intellectual property and really stepping into leadership roles. However, the threats are super modern. The text specifically warns about cascading clouds. This means a spike in digital scams, online detractors, and heightened privacy risks as you become more visible. It's a real tightrope walk, right? Balancing that high creative integrity with the very real threat of digital exhaustion. All right, section 3, the wealth timeline for early June. This brings us to the absolute core of our strategy today. We're focusing intensely on the hard timeline provided for the first half of June 2026, which is incredibly action-driven. The source maps out 4 critical execution dates where the 1979 GOAT needs to transition into bold self-expression. June 2nd, June 6th, June 9th, and June 14th. Just to highlight one quickly, June 6th is noted as the grand opening. It's an auspicious day, perfect for launching a new retail project or service because the numerical energy is all about fresh starts. But let's look a bit closer at the other 3 anchor dates. Starting with June 2nd, the strategy here dictates making a foundational investment. This ties into a Vedic Jupiter exaltation, which the text describes as a rare once-in-12 years blessing. The actionable advice? Secure property deals or reinvest heavily into the infrastructure of your home-based business. This is all about laying the concrete for everything that's going to follow. Now, what's really fascinating is the climax date of early June. That hits on June 9th, the golden sale. The text actually defines this as the defining wealth event of the entire month, fueled by a Venus-Jupiter conjunction. For you as a solopreneur, this is your prime, high-ticket conversion window. It's the exact week you want to be closing major contracts, negotiating performance bonuses, and locking down deals focused on long-term legacy and stability. The market is actively looking for trusted expertise, and the forecast places you directly in the role of the wise guide on this very day. Then we hit June 14th, the Mind's Manifesto.
Aligning perfectly with the Gemini no moon, this is the prime window for launching your digital intellectual property. Whether you're dropping a new digital platform, an audio series, launching a Substack, or publishing an ebook, the strategy is crystal clear. Sharing your truth is meant to become your primary revenue stream. This is exactly where that sovereign action we talked about earlier physically materializes out in the market.
Section 4. Monetize the weird. So how do you actually pull this off on these specific dates? Well, you have to embrace your unique, non-mainstream viewpoints if you want to capture the market. The source points out that with Uranus and Gemini, the world is completely saturated with cheap imitation. Because of that, your unfiltered magic is literally your greatest asset. The direct advice here is to build your business around the opinion no one else dares to say. It's a massive call to be radically original, because radical originality is the one thing that can't be easily copied. To achieve that level of originality, the forecast gives us some very practical methods. First off, use AI, but use it as an empathetic machine, meaning don't use it to churn out generic, boring content. Use it to automate your routine tasks. That protects your time and ensures your focus stays entirely on your creative independence. Beyond that, it highly recommends seeking mentorship or targeting clients specifically in the tech, engineering, or automotive sectors. You want to leverage what it calls the Taiyang star energy, which brings strong support from male benefactors in those specific fields. Okay, Section 5, Feng Shui for expansion. Let's see how this all builds into your physical environments. Executing on this aggressive June timeline actually requires some physical adjustments to your workspace to properly support it. The forecast breaks down this spatial blueprint into 3 distinct sectors. You need to activate the southeast, protect the south, and optimize the center. And here are the exact instructions from the text. Over in the southeast, which they call the portal of prosperity, keep it well lit and place a sky bowl there to really open up that investment luck. Now, the south is your protection zone. It's hosting a misfortune star this year, so the strict rule is absolutely no drilling or loud music in that sector during June, and you'll want to use metal wind chimes to suppress any negative energy. Finally, in the center success hub, they recommend placing a victory flag to sharpen your intellect and draw in helpful people during this really intense launch phase. Bringing this whole thing together, the source wraps up with a really powerful summary of the ultimate goal here. June 2026 is defined as the month you officially make the transition from collaborator to creator. By taking advantage of that June 9th golden window to finalize your high-ticket assets and using the June 14th new moon to broadcast your digital IP, you are setting yourself up perfectly for the entire second half of the year. To really lock in this new main character energy, the text offers a specific mantra for the 1979 Earth Goat. I am the architect of my own authority. I speak my truth with sovereign power and watch as the world responds with abundance. It's a great reminder, right? Don't shrink back. Fully own your expertise. Which leaves us with this final, highly provocative thought derived from the forecast. You have the strategic roadmap now, from the ARIES reset all the way through to those critical early June execution dates. So the choice is entirely yours. Will you step up into your authority, or will you shrink back just to avoid being seen? It's a truly fascinating look at how structured, targeted foresight can completely guide a solopreneur's strategy. Thank you so much for joining me as we unpacked this wealth forecast, and I really hope it gives you a fresh, exciting perspective on executing your own sovereign vision.